Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to understand what companies are really saying in their official reports. Today we have a very interesting one from I.D.T Corporation. And let me tell you, they've got some numbers to share that might just make you raise an eyebrow. So what is this document we have here? Basically, it is a current report. Think of it as a company's way of quickly telling the public about major events that happen. They have to do this because they're selling stock, and the public deserves to know what's going on. This report is dated the 29th of September 2025, and it covers events up to that date. This is important because it's telling us about the company's performance and important news right up to this specific point in time. The company we are looking at is I.D.T Corporation. You might know them from their services like direct-to-consumer communication and payment services. They've been around for a while and they operate in a pretty competitive space. Here we see some basic corporate information like where they are incorporated and their identification numbers. This is standard stuff for these filings, like their official address and ID number with the IRS. Nothing super exciting here, but it's how they are formally identified. Here is a phone number for them. Now, I know we're not supposed to focus on this, but sometimes it's fun to imagine calling them up and asking about these numbers, but we won't do that here. Well, stick to the numbers themselves. This tells us that I.D.T Corporation has Class B common stock, and this stock is traded on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol I.D.T. You see this on many companies. It's how investors can find and trade their shares. This little checkbox tells us whether the company considers itself an emerging growth company. This is important because it means they might have some flexibility with certain reporting rules. In this case, they have not checked this box, meaning they are a more established company that doesn't qualify for those special rules. Now we get to the juicy part, the financial results. Companies have to report their financial performance, and this section usually contains the most important information. This means on the 29th of September 2025, I.D.T Corporation released a press announcement about how they did financially for their last quarter and their whole fiscal year. That year ended on the 31st of July 2025. So we were looking at performance right up to the summer of 2025. This exhibit is the actual earnings release. It's like the company's own summary of their financial health for that period. They are including it here, and it's important because it tells us how they are framing their own performance. This section is basically a table of contents for all the extra documents attached to this report. It tells us what else you can find in here. Here is our exhibit index. It lists out all the supporting documents that come with this 8K filing. This is the main event for us today. This is the earnings release they just talked about. It contains all the detailed financial numbers that we're going to dissect to understand how I.D.T Corporation is doing. And this is an interactive data file. It's usually in a format that computers can easily read and process, making it easier for analysts and the SEC to crunch the numbers. It's essentially a digital version of their financial information. Here we have a signature from Shmuel Jonas, who is identified as the Chief Executive Officer. This means he's officially signing off on this report, confirming that the information presented is accurate to the best of his knowledge. It's a formal way for the top leader to stand behind the company's disclosures. This is the name of the company signing off on the report that we've been looking through. This is the date the report was signed and officially submitted. Again, the 29th of September 2025. This confirms that the information is current as of that date. This is the actual earnings release that I.D.T put out. It's the core document we need to look at to understand their financial performance. Now, they don't include the actual tables with specific numbers in this 8K filing itself. They just reference the earnings release. However, based on how these filings work usually, the earnings release would contain key figures like revenue, net income, and earnings per share, along with comparisons to previous periods. For I.D.T Corporation, their main business involves communication services and payment solutions. So when we look at their earnings, we'd want to see how their revenue in these segments is performing. Are they gaining more customers for their calling cards or international calling plans? Is their payment platform like their Boss Revolution money service seeing growth? Are these services bringing in more money than before? Wednesday also be looking at their profit margins. Even if revenue is up, if their costs are rising faster, that's not a good sign. Wednesday expect to see numbers that show if they are efficiently managing their expenses. A key metric to watch would be the earnings per share or EPS. If EPS is growing, it means that for every share of stock, the company is making more money. This is generally a positive indicator for shareholders. Looking at the period mentioned, the 31st of July 2025, we want to know if the company experienced a strong end to its fiscal year. Did they hit their targets for the quarter and the full year? We would compare these results to what analysts expected. If they beat expectations, that's usually seen positively by the market. If they missed, it could signal underlying issues. For example, if revenue from their international calling services declined by, say, 10%, that could mean they are losing market share to competitors, or that the demand for traditional calling services is shrinking faster than anticipated. Conversely, if their new payment solutions are showing a 25% growth in transaction volume, that would indicate success in a growing market and a good strategic pivot by the company. We'd also be keen to see how they are managing their cash flow. Are they generating enough cash from their operations to cover their expenses, invest in new projects, and potentially pay down debt? A company that consistently generates positive cash flow is generally a healthier business. When we look at these earnings releases, we are essentially trying to see a clear story about the company's health and its future prospects. Are the numbers pointing towards growth and stability, or are there warning signs that suggest challenges ahead? Now let's put on our investor hats and look at I.D.T Corporation. Based on this filing, it seems like the company is trying to give us a clear picture of their financial standing as of the summer of 2025. The fact that they are filing an 8K report means there was a significant event. In this case, the release of their quarterly and annual results. What we would want to do is dive deep into that exhibit 99.1, the earnings release, to truly understand the numbers. Without the specific figures from the earnings release, it is hard to give a definitive analysis, but we can talk about what we'd be looking for. I.D.T Corporation is in businesses that are constantly evolving. The communication sector, especially international calling, faces disruption from newer digital methods. Their payment services, however, are in a growing area. So the story we'd want to see from their financials is whether they are successfully transitioning or defending their core businesses while expanding in the payment sector. Are their current strategies paying off? Are they investing wisely in growth areas? Are their older services still providing enough consistent revenue to fund these new ventures? One of the biggest risks for a company like I.D.T is competition. New technologies and new players can emerge quickly, and they need to be agile. Their financial results would reflect this. For instance, if their net income is shrinking, it could signal that they are struggling to compete on price, or that their new initiatives aren't yet profitable enough to offset declines in older segments. On the other hand, if their revenue from newer services is growing rapidly and their overall profit is increasing, it would suggest they are navigating these challenges effectively. Wednesday also consider the broader economic environment. Are people spending less on communication or financial services? These external factors can significantly impact a company's performance. In conclusion, I.D.T Corporation's filing today is mainly a notification that they've shared their latest financial results. To truly decode their health, we need to pore over that earnings release. We'd be looking for signs of growth in their payment sector to offset any potential decline in traditional communication services, and for overall profitability that shows strategic success. Without those specific numbers, it is like looking at a headline without reading the article. It tells you something happened, but not the whole story. Alright, that's our breakdown based on what we can see in this 8K. What's your take on what's happening with I.D.T Corporation? Do you think they are well positioned for the future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable to you, hitting that like button really helps us out, and remember to subscribe for more deep dives into corporate filings. Don't forget to check out our Discord community linked in the description for more discussions and insights. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Corporate Decoder.